Hey guys, welcome to the 44th episode of the Learning Podcast. And if you aren't sure, it's a Singaporean podcast dedicated to learning something new from every single guest on this show. And today I have a guest that I knew through one of my colleagues, Naur, and I must really thank her for this because I think the guest today has a lot of experience in terms of entrepreneurship. She has created a lot of interesting things. A little context about her. Her name is Huda. Huda, thanks so much for taking the time to come down all the way from Yishun.
And you're welcome. I really am looking forward to have this conversation with you.
Cool. A little context about Huda. She has mainly created two movements or entities which I think are very interesting in a sense, and I know that there should be a lot of stories that I can learn from. She's the co-founder or founder of Blissful Studios, which is a full-fledged corporate content marketing agency, and it supports clients via video content production, social media content, and digital marketing. And some of the clients that she has previously worked with include Prudential, UOB, Volkswagen, Duke NUS, ERA Real Estate, and many more. And I think that digital marketing, content creation, in itself, I feel that these terms are quite broad in a sense. So I think that from her experience, I'm interested to know about her niche as well, onto the kind of workings that she has with all these kind of clients. But more specifically, I'm very, very interested, right, in the startings of someone's endeavor in an agency, because I think that now that they've done so much stuff, right, I feel that like people like me who has like accomplished so little, right, I find it hard to relate to what you're doing. So I'm just very interested in terms of the starting beginnings, very starting of, let's say, I'm very interested in the story of how you met your first client, got your first client, and the struggles and challenges and lessons that you got from there as well. So I think agency world, it's something that I'm in, and I'm very interested to learn about as well, because I'm still learning on how to do client comms, maintaining relationships, and perhaps do some biz stuff from there. So I'm sure from her experience, she will be able to share how is it like working with all these kind of clients as well. And she has also been nominated the most compassionate womanpreneur in 2019, and she has also spoke in various events like Google Singapore and the US State Department. So maybe she can share some stories on how she got that. But I think that as a speaker, as a trainer, as a coach, I think there's a lot to learn from her as well in this aspect. And I believe that she is currently working with her husband as well, in terms of working in the agency, Blissful Studios.
Correct.
So I'm sure working with, I would say, family in that sense has a lot of nuances and intricacies, which I think that can be shared more about, because I think that, not to say that you want to leverage your family to like start a business or whatever, but if there's really a good sync, right, and if there's a good fit, I think that like the potential of it is just really so much. The second thing that I really want to talk to her about is entrepreneurship and creating a community. So Huda has definitely done that. She's the co-founder of Fempreneur Secrets. It was founded in 2017, and its mission is to empower women to start and own businesses and to create a community of economically independent women entrepreneurs globally. So I think that creating a community to me is like the highest callings. Like you are able to make an impact and positively bring value and impact people's lives. And I think that through her experiences of creating a community, right, not more to just creating a community, is about building meaningful relationships and making that positive impact on them. And I'm sure that I feel that you derive a lot of satisfaction in this kind of work when you see your clients or your community succeed. And I'm just curious to know, from her point of view, at least her challenges when it took to creating the community that she needed to, and as well as some lessons along the way. So a couple of reasons why I think this conversation will be helpful. There are different schools of entrepreneurship. Some people go through the VC way, whereby they try to pitch and get funding, whereas the other way, would you say, is a bootstrap method, whereby you really make do with what you have. And I think that, at least for my preference, I'm more in preference of the bootstrap way to really do things on the ground. And I believe it's an assumption again that if you're in the agency world, right, technically you're really bootstrapping and creating it as a capital generating machine, whereby you are able to invest the money somewhere else and do a lot of other things accordingly. So this podcast is for potential entrepreneurs out there. This podcast is also about working in family and community creation. And last thing I want to say is that I've checked out Huda's work as well in Fempreneur Secrets. I feel that she has a very nice infrastructure in place. What do I mean infrastructure? In terms of the website design, the layout, the kind of content or evidence, the videos that she has for coaching programs is very well crafted as well. The copy is, I feel, is like very on point. The colors, the branding across all her social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, a lot of all the channels, right? Her podcast as well is very on point. So I think that in terms of having that brand coherence across all channels. I think she has a very, very strong understanding of it because in my world, I'm doing performance marketing. All I know is like just to sell products online, but we disregard branding in that sense. But I know from her experience, she has a lot of thoughts on that. So sorry for the long introduction. I think that there's a lot of depth that I wanted to talk about. So Huda, for those listeners, I know I gave an introduction, but for those listeners that don't know who you are, could you give a quick summary of what I've missed out in a sense?
Sure. Thanks, JJ, for the very, very insightful introduction, because this is the first time hearing it from someone else's point of view, especially the mission that we have at Fempreneur Secrets. So when you read out my mission, I really had goosebumps coming out.
This should be the right way, right?
Yeah, because I feel like, I'm so excited, when you are saying it this way. So for those of you who are new, have not heard about me, my name is Huda, and I'm the founder of Fempreneur Secrets. I'm also the founder of Blissful Studios, which is the agency that you talked about. I've been in business since 2012, technically. You know how a lot of businesses actually start unofficially. Yeah, so then officially we begin in 2014. So I have 8 years worth of experience running businesses right now. Also in terms of like what you were talking about, entrepreneurship, running family businesses and all this, I have been raised in a family of businesses actually. So my whole family, we grew up with the world of business because my father, my grandfather, they ran construction companies. So it's something that I would say like is in my blood, but at the same time, seeing how your family runs it and you doing it yourself is two different things. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation that I can have today, and hopefully I can give value to those who are listening in and also watching. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so if I may go back, right, just to the very, very early days, right, I'm just interested in the very starting days of Blissful Studios. I know that it was born out of a circumstance which was very difficult that you had during that time, and I just wanted to know, like, in terms of the first steps or challenges that you had in terms of approaching clients, biz dev, right? I mean, could you maybe share with us a story of like those days where you, like, what do you do during those days, in those early days in terms of finding your first clients?
Okay, finding our first client for Blissful Studios, I would say that it has a lot to do with my partners. So at the time when we established the company, there was actually my fiance at that time, now husband, and his good friend. So it was through a contact that the two of them had that we got our first client. So I am sure you've also listened into the story about how I got this first client. So this first client was really quite interesting because our first client is an event organizer. And this event organizer's first event with us was at a pub. So here I am wearing tudong and everything. Oh. So we actually had to go there and did our first event coverage. So on top of the event coverage, we also did photo booth services. So that was how actually we got our foot in. And then from there, I realized that it's not a matter of you might have fears. You might be thinking like, I might not be able to get this client because of whatever reasons there is. But getting that first client was the start of everything, because from that client it will lead to the next client, to the next client, to the next client. So I think it's really important for us to know that getting your first client is, in essence, it's like throwing a rock into the water and you are seeing ripples form. It's like that. It's the same logic. And if you don't have that first move to, get your courage out to get that first client, you will be stuck forever. So that first client is everything. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Yeah.
Did it help that you have partners that really agreed that, you're agreeing within yourselves that, okay, we are going to do this? Because sometimes I feel like I have some friends that they are like a lone wolf in that sense, whereby they have a lot of like limiting beliefs, they have a lot of stories that they tell themselves in a sense. Do you think that, let's say, venturing out and having partners in a sense helped you in like getting that first step out?
Okay, you've mentioned a very good point about being a lone wolf. I actually am a lone wolf. I prefer to do things on my own and I prefer a certain direction. But when I work with partners, right, I get to see a different perspective. And one of the things that partners actually help you do, right, is to kind of like fill in the gaps that you may have. So whatever weaknesses that you have or things that you are not so great at, your partner is like really good at it. That's the point of partnership in the first place. Like you need to have that way for you to fill in and form like a jigsaw puzzle kind of thing, and then you form a piece. that will look beautiful, because at the end of the day, that partnership is the one that's going to make or break your business. A bad partner or a partner that doesn't cooperate, it will really ruin your business. But a partner who is willing to make changes, willing to go in the same direction as your business, that's the one that you're looking for, which is not easy to get. And getting a life partner to be your partner in business as well, of course, has its own sets of challenges. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is what you're very interested to find out about, right?
Going one step back, right, I'm just interested, let's say, I feel that it is already a feat, right, to be able to be very self-critical and identify your own weaknesses. So, like, for you, right, what was the process in terms of how you discovered your own weaknesses? And not to say that you consciously find partners that complement you, but I think having that self-awareness to really know what you're bad at. If you are willing to share, what are you bad at? And what are the stories that allowed you to knew that you were weak at something, and hopefully in that sense work on it by maybe outsourcing it? What was the story behind finding your own weaknesses?
Finding my own weaknesses was something that I've always done since I was young. Not say weaknesses alone. I also try to see what am I really good at. So somewhere around 2008, 2009, I was actually in JC, and then I was making a very tough decision. Do I want to go to do I really want to do this degree course, or do I want to do something else? And it wasn't easy. So I actually read up a lot of things, and I also asked myself a lot of questions. The first thing that I did was actually to ask my friends, what do you think is something that I'm great at? So I asked them that question, and it really helped a lot. So some of them actually came to me and said, "Oh, you're very creative. You're very good in the work that you do. You are able to think, and something will form in that way." And from there, I was like, okay, so I'm good. I'm a creative person. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, what else can I do? So then I went to my family and I asked, what do you think I'm great at? And my father, my family, my brothers, they will always say, oh, I think you're a natural born leader, you can lead. So I was like, okay, so it's pointing in the direction of becoming an entrepreneur. And as I go along in the process of, running the business, getting to know my partner, getting to know my clients, I always ask them that same question. And I realized that by asking that question, I get to see an evolution or growth in my personal self. So one of the things that I'm not good at is I don't like to read.
Okay.
Okay? I don't like to read, especially news. I don't like it at all because I find that it's very demoralizing, very depressing for me to always listen to news and all that. But it is necessary, right? So that's where my partner comes in. My partner is sort of like my encyclopedia.
Oh,
so
okay.
he will do all the research for me, and then he will say, okay, so these are the highlights of what's going on. So this is what you need to know. So if we go out to talk, these are the things that you can talk about. And if it goes beyond that scope of things, right, then you can just say, oh, I'm not too sure about that. I've not heard about it, and let them talk. So that's what I normally do. So having a good partner helps a lot. So you already know what's your weakness. Your partner should be able to fill in. The other weakness that I would say made me realize that I actually can overcome is that I have a difficulty in managing my time when I first begin, because you're a creative, right? You have so many things that you want to do. You have so much vision that you want in your business. So when it comes to that managing of time, my partner was the one who had to tell me that, okay, so there are some things that you have to let go and you have to go and outsource. So you have to make a decision on what needs to be outsourced. And of course, one of the normal qualms that you may get in a marital relationship, right, is that you don't want to listen to your partner lah.
Okay.
So you will wait for someone else to tell you, like a coach or a book that you're being inspired to read, or you watch a YouTube video and then they say like, oh, you actually need to outsource things, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to outsource things now. But it's exactly the same thing that my partner said previously. So that was what I did. I actually wrote down the things that I'm good at, the things that I'm great at, or the things that are too time consuming. Then I break it down and I make a decision like, okay, the things that I enjoy doing, I'm going to keep. But the areas that, might be too time consuming, I'm going to outsource that. So that was the beginning of how I actually built my team. So I realized that I really needed to outsource certain work, especially when it comes to replying emails and trying to find new leads and all that. I can't be doing it. I have to go in front to meet the clients or try to prospect on my own in person. So that was what I was good at. I would do that. Someone else would have to take charge of the lead generation and also the back end basically. So I'm the front face, and that is exactly what is being done. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes. I'm just curious, right? Like when you started, let's say Blissful Studios in 2014, right? I'm sure this realization, how long did this realization take? Because like, was it like something immediate that you knew with your partner and discussed with him that, okay, I think meeting clients is something that I'm really strong at and something I really love, I'll assume. Yes, right? Meeting clients. And when did this realization come about deep into your early journeys in Blissful Studios?
That's actually a very good question. So I have this practice that I do every single time since secondary school actually, which is the process of self-reflection. So it is it's something that you grow with, So I've always been reflecting. So if you want to say when it occurred, perhaps it goes all the way back in my secondary school years where I was taught that it's important to always reflect after you have done an activity. Take a look at what went wrong, what went well, and at the same time, I've often always reflect at my behavior. So if let's say I'm sure all Singaporeans will go through this. Like when you were a teenager, you will always be very angsty towards your parents, right? Yeah. So when that happens, I will actually take a pause and I will actually reflect. Okay, that wasn't very nice of me to do that. So I need to take a step back and cool down, see if my parents have come down, then I'll go ahead and apologize. So I've always been self-reflecting. I wouldn't say it's like a trigger or anything like that has happened that caused me to realize my weaknesses and my strengths. It's just something that I've grown with. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly when. Yeah.
In a sense, I'm envious because I think most of us get caught in like hustle and bustle of everyday life, right? And we don't really take the time to self-reflect. And I think that's just a very envious skill that I admire. Oh my gosh. Moving on to meeting clients, right? I'm just very interested because I've talked to like a lot of other agency partners as well. Like in terms of your process of onboarding clients, right? Is there I think this is like I'm sure there's no fixed template accordingly, but how do you choose your clients?
Oh, very good question. In the very beginning of our business, we didn't choose our clients. We accept whoever that comes in the way, and it's survival first. So we take whatever client that comes our way, we service them, and from there we learn the clients that we don't want in our business. So we then, once we already reach a certain level, of course, like you're able to survive, you're able to pay the bills, and then you can start to make the decision to reject your clients. So the clients that are causing us a lot of heartache, or the type of industries that are causing us those heartaches, right? The moment they say they're in that industry, then we'll politely decline. We say that, this is not an industry that we are experts
would you mind sharing
in.
which industry?
Like for example, construction actually.
Okay.
So construction is very huge. It's not just one specific area. You've got so many things in it. And even though I was raised in that industry, but the work when it comes to producing video content or even photography content for that industry, it's crazy. It's a lot of work. You need to first of all make sure that you are clothed properly. Then you need to wear a helmet. Then there's some areas you cannot go through. And then the risk of you falling and hurting yourself is so high. So it's like an industry that we are not openly like promoting, But if you are an interior designer and you want to work with us and you want us to produce the after, before after kind of thing, right? Okay, that one is fine. But in the process of it, it's going to be really tough for us. So the only way for us to actually determine what kind of clients that we want or what we don't want, right, is through experience. You've got to experience all of these things first before you can make a decision that, okay, this is the type of client I don't want. This is the type of client I don't want. That's the only way that you can actually make that decision.
Just going back one step into that story, could you just tell me a story of like the difficulties that you face in terms of, I would assume that definitely you onboarded some construction clients, right? Can you just tell me a story, like what specifically did you have to do, or what did they require of you, and just that story.
I think for this particular story is more of the clients that eventually they didn't want to go through with the projects with us because there's always a very long red tape for this industry. You come in as a project manager, but then you have to report to someone, and then the someone have to report to someone, and eventually that someone have to report to a client. So you realize that you are actually not working for them, you're actually working for the client. So if you communicate with them, then you are going to have a lot of struggles trying to convey your message across, because actually they are not the final person. The final person is their client. So it's a very long process. But one of the biggest risks, I would say, would actually be dust particles entering our equipment.
Oh, yes.
So we don't want to incur unnecessary costs for that, and at the same time, you know how expensive lenses are, right?
Yeah.
So we sayang, we want to make sure that everything is taken care properly. So any industries that is not willing to cover the cost of that, then we will just reject lah. If the client is willing to cover, it's another story.
Okay. So on that note, right, what's your ideal client? Since that you have identified what you don't like, right?
Yeah.
What do you like?
My ideal clients are most of the time they are people who they know what they want in their business, or they are very clear about what their work is. They know that, okay, this is the result that I want at the end of the day. And at the same time, the clients that I love to work with are clients who are compassionate, which means that when they speak to me, right, they are not rude, they want the project to be done well. So that's the reason why they reach out to us in the first place, right? They want it to be done. They may have some perspectives on, okay, this is what they are expecting and things like that, but all that needs to be communicated before the project begins, right? And not during the project, which happens a lot in this industry. I'm sure you also face up some situation like that, right? So those are my ideal clients. Very hard to come by, very hard to come by, but they are my ideal clients, and most of them happen to be in the finance sector. They're actually quite okay in the finance sector, yeah.
When it comes to choosing those ideal clients that you want, right? Some, I think there are like different schools of thoughts as well, whereby you, let's say, you want to value price them, like especially in the finance sector. Let's say in banking, that there's a lot more opportunities for you to like take more than you need. So in terms of just, because from my perspective, as like I'm also trying out like side businesses as well, right? In terms of pricing, how do you price your work?
That's a very tough question, and it's borderline private. I will try my very best to answer this without divulging company secrets. So the pricing is critical in the very beginning. You need to know what you are worth. And of course, it goes down to the basic of whatever we learn in school that it needs to cover the cost. How we price ourselves is based on our value, and also we benchmark it according to the industry. If there's one thing that we believe in, is that in this industry, in the media broadcasting, in the video and even photography industry, there's a lot of newcomers, and these newcomers are what we call the spoil market. The spoil market group, right? Because they want to build portfolio. So there is a difference between undercutting by going super cheap and offering for free. Because if you offer for free, it's fine. You are offering for free in exchange of portfolio, so that people will understand. But if you undercut the market and you offer like $20 like per hour, for example, for your work, and then after that you're like, oh, deliverables included. So it's like unreasonable for you to do that, because when you do that, you are educating new clients in the industry that is the norm, when that is not the norm. Yeah, and at the same time, you will realize that those people who actually price themselves that way, super low, right, they will not be able to survive long, because they didn't factor in the cost. They only think about themselves as the person carrying the camera, as the person doing the work. So for us as an agency level, we've already determined from the very beginning that we need to respect our industry. So our pricing is based on the industry standards, and it's also based on what we worth and value ourselves. And at the same time, our clients need to be able to also value our worth. So if they cannot respect our price, then it's okay. They can always find someone else. Yeah.
Got it. That definitely answers my question, right? Can I just ask, in terms of like your many years in working with so many kind of companies, right? Is there like a client that strikes out to you that you felt that, wow, I really like the work that I'm doing for them, and hopefully like we can work even longer in the future? Like, what was is there any stories that you can tell in terms of like the best working relationship that you have with clients?
I don't know. I just feel that all the clients that we currently have right now, they are clients that we want to work with for a very long time. Usually it starts with the relationship. And if the relationship from the very beginning is very respectful, and you value our worth, you care about the work that is being pushed out, and at the same time, if let's say the results is not what you have expected as a client, right? You convey the feedback in a very respectful manner. We will feel good as well. We would know, okay, these are constructive criticism. They are feedback that we can work on and improve ourselves for this specific client. Because creativity is subjective, like every single client would have different scope of work, different expectations when it comes to it. But for all the clients that we are currently working with right now, they are all very lovely people. They are very nice for us to work with. They respect my team. They also respect the work that is being pushed out. So that's like the kind of clients that we are okay with. Yeah.
Have you ever fired clients?
Yes, we have. Don't want to mention because it's very specific. But I would say that is necessary. As an entrepreneur, you need to determine who are the clients that you would want. So you have to also have the courage to fire your client and just say it straight out. Just say, no, I think it's not going to work out. It's just like dating. You don't want to struggle for like 2 years and then realize like, oh, actually she's not the one for me. I don't want to marry her. You waste 2 years of your life. Same lah for clients.
I like the analogy. So moving on the topic of dating, right? Moving on to the topic of working with loved ones, right? Could you maybe just share your process of like how you even got started working with your husband in the like? I know it's like going back to the early days. Do you start Blissful Studios when you were together with your husband already, or like how was that process like?
Yeah, we started this when he was my boyfriend, and then I think a few months after we started the business, we got engaged. And then after that, 2 years later, we got married. So it's nice to see that we grew together. And because we grew together as individuals and also as the company, we get to see the perspectives and the vision that we expect for our lives as well as our own business. But I know you're interested in the challenges, right? So, so for the challenges itself, of course, sometimes in the beginning, especially, it was hard for us to draw the line between what's work and what's personal. And when you talk about work and then you actually want to talk about personal, you tend to get distracted. You don't know what is the focus. So after years, then we actually formed like an understanding. Okay, so if he's angry with me because of the work, he's angry with me because of the work. And it's to a point where the next moment we can ask, okay, so what you want for dinner? Yeah, it's like that, you can switch the moment, you can switch the feelings. One moment you be angry, the next moment, okay, what you want for dinner? You want me to cook? You want to eat out?
It sounds very robotic to me, but that's what you have accomplished, is it? Like to be able to segregate that line so clearly.
Yeah, you need to draw the line very clearly. It's not easy. A lot of couples in businesses struggle, especially when it comes to this. But when you clearly demark your roles and you make it clear that, okay, so if I'm the one leading it, then you are doing something else. So that's your area I won't disturb, and this is my area of expertise, you won't disturb. So it's just like that. It's just how it works. Storming is a very natural process when it comes to partnerships, and especially partnerships that involves your personal life as well. It's very, very normal. So when we communicate, we do our very best to actually communicate clearly, like, okay, this is about work and the timing now is about work. Okay, so I have to like take a look at the time. Okay, this one is work. It's not personal, angry at me personally. Yeah, so that's the kind of communication we have. Yeah.
Do you guys come up with like a kind of structure, like, because I think I have some friends that work together as well, and they come up with like very not templatized, but very formal things that they organize, like let's say per month, right? You have that sit down session. Have you and your husband created any formal thing whereby you guys come together and really reflect with each other? I know reflection is something that you do on your own as well, but occasionally when like, I'm not sure, like in my experience, sometimes when the client work comes in, there's just so much things happening, right? It's so crazy, right? For yourself, have you like set up any I don't know, like structures in place in terms of to facilitate this kind of good communication with each other?
We do AAR, after action review. So after every event, after every project, that's what we would do. We would sit down together with our team and then we'll just like ask, okay, so what did we do well? What did we not do so well? How can we improve and things like that? So in that setting, you are actually becoming the leader. You are showing to your team that it's okay to have feedback and it's okay to tell me to my face right there in that situation that I didn't do something right. That's fine. So when we have that kind of AAR, is it's really helpful and very constructive for the team as well. So during that kind of session, it's like a safe zone. Like, you know, even as a staff, you can just tell me like, oh, I didn't like the way you speak to me. I'm fine with that. Like, so at least you tell me from the very beginning, then I'm okay with that. Yeah. Or like, you know, if one of my staff came late and like, oh, you came very late to the event, that's very unprofessional. So we say, you know, all this, what we call this, like, unhappiness that was caused at the project or mistakes that we have identified, it's okay to talk during that session. So I'm currently teaching my producers to actually do that as well. And it's a good activity. But when it comes to partnerships, we don't actually sit down on like, you know, a very fixed schedule to actually talk about the business. Because we talk about the business almost every day. So there's no fixed schedule about it. Yeah.
Got it. If I may just take one step back, right, in terms of your lessons that okay, maybe more towards the, let's say, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's like just starting out back when you were in 2014, right? The kind of mistakes that you have made along this like 6-year journey, right, of like creating Blissful Studios, right? What kind of mistakes do you make that you think would be useful to share with others?
Mistakes. I think if I were to tell my younger self when I was starting out, I would say, don't be too concerned about what people have to say about what you are doing, because you know the direction that you want to take. So just go forth with it. Like, don't care about the noise that's happening around you. Just move forward, because it's so hard to explain to people sometimes what you're doing. And you know, being Singaporeans, the standard question they ask like, sure, not got CPF or not? Yeah, right. So this kind of things did initially affect me when I first started, making me think twice about the decision that I make, because I'm not just doing it alone, I'm doing it with my husband. So it means that our shared income is actually self-employed income at that time when we first began. So I had to think a lot about this, and then eventually, you know, we were able to survive. So survive and thrive. So that's the most important bit lah. Yeah, don't be so concerned about what people think about you.
Is there a specific story that you can share behind this thought? Like in terms of like, was it your close friends that were asking you these questions, or like the kind of clients you're working with? Like where did this come from?
It's normal lah, family, you know.
Just mostly because like you come from a very entrepreneur family in a sense, right? So it's not really, it's different, is it, when you are doing it yourself compared to like your families operating their own businesses?
It's not my direct family. It's often extended family.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And you feel that, you know, are they saying the right thing? Because sometimes when you hear from your direct family, you always think that, okay, whatever they're saying is correct or not correct, you know, is always an extreme. But when you see and speak to your external family, then the conversations might be different. So those were the most of the concern, where most of the concerns come in. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks so much for sharing. I think the agency world, I think it's very exciting at the same time, and to see your work come to life and like just go through the hustle and bustle of really like giving value. I think that's very interesting. So that's why I'm very interested in the agency world as well, right? So moving on, I'm very interested to talk to you about Fempreneur Secrets as well, right? For those, I know I just gave a quick introduction about it as well, but because from the articles that I've read, right, it's clear that you really want to specifically help women entrepreneurs. But from my perspective, is there like a more of an internal reason, or there's an inside story of a personal story of why you decided to embark in it? Was it like a conversation with one of your friends, your husband? What was that personal story of why you started it? A very selfish reason of why you wanted to start it.
All right, so this is a very, very good question, and it's a story that I often tell. The reason why I started it was because of something that happened to me right before I actually started Blissful Studios. So my father had passed away, and my father being the sole owner of the company, not sole owner, the main owner of the company, he actually just signed on my mother as director, but on paper, you know,
as a formality.
As a formality, but my mom doesn't run the operation. So when my father passed away, my mom had no clue what to do to run the company, and we were in debt. We were taking over the debt that my father had. And when my father was still alive, he was able to service the debts, no issues with that. It's just that when he passed on, my mom didn't even know he had the debt in the first place.
Oh, that is something.
Yeah. So there was a lot of debts that went on for the business itself. So from one decision, it led to another. And one of the major decisions that my mom made was to actually sell off our house. And that decision actually had a repercussion, which was I actually went homeless. So for a few weeks actually I was homeless, and I was just like begging my family, extended relatives to give us a space to stay in. Without the support of my husband, and also without the support of those who were there for us, I probably would be living on the streets lah. There was one particular moment in my life where I was just like, it was at night, I think it was about 7-ish like that, and I was like thinking, okay, don't have any more money. I only have like $2. I've got to make a decision what to do with this $2. Should I get a drink? Should I eat? Or should I take public transport and find the next place for me to go to? So that was a very tough decision for me to do. And I was sitting at the side of the road, like really at a curb. And I was like thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do now? And that was when...
Can I just how old were you at this point?
21. I was 21. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So I was struggling trying to make that decision. So what am I supposed to do now? I actually sat there until 9 p.m. And then I made a decision. Okay, I'm very hungry. I'm going to see what I can do with this $2. So I prayed to God and like, okay, please, figure out a path for me because I have no clue what needs to happen. Then like next moment, my auntie gave me a call. This auntie of mine has never called us. Like it's like long lost auntie kind. She called and asked, where are you? So I said, oh, I'm here. And then she was like, okay, are you meet me at this place? Okay, then we will talk. So I sit down there, met her. Then she was like, are you hungry? I said, yes. Then she go and order and buy anything that you want. So I got food. Then I was like, I really was very shy, like, okay, I don't want to overburden my auntie, right? So then I continued. Then after that, she was like, this is $200. This is yours. Now this other $400, give it to your mother. And I was like, okay. I was just like so shocked at the moment. Yeah. So that situation made me realize that men who run businesses and put their wife's name in the companies, right, and don't allow their wife to run operations, it is actually... you're actually putting them in a situation where they cannot survive. They wouldn't know what needs to be done anyway. So it is really important that all women be given access to business education, because with business education, you can either survive or thrive. There's no other ways but actually to do one of those two. You either survive or you thrive. So with business education, I believe that I could have avoided that situation, and my mother could have avoided that situation. She could have made better decisions. And with business knowledge as well, the women in our community were able to see that they are able to move forward in their lives, and at the same time they can see and impact more lives as a result of that. So that was the reason why I was so fired up and so passionate to really set up Fempreneur Secrets to help women bridge that gap. They need this business knowledge to move forward. Yeah.
I can definitely see why you're so passionate about this. The story of it is so strong. I mean, do you mind just continuing a bit off the like? So what do you do after like you receive that $200? Like what was those first steps when you like just have $2 and you were like just sitting on the street? What were the? I'm sure you remember those moments as very vivid moments because they were at like an all-time low.
Yeah.
Like how to me it sounds crazy,
Yeah.
Like how do you proceed from there? Like the $200 that you got and the $400 that like what? Would you mind just extending the story just a little bit? Like what were the next steps there?
The next step I did was actually to call my fiance at the time. So I just called him and I was like, okay, so what do I do? Can I sleep over at maybe at a hotel or something like that? And he was like, okay, nearest hotel to you is Hotel 81. So that was what he did, but he helped to book first, and then I reimbursed him afterwards. So he booked that, and I called my mom immediately. I was like, okay, Mom, we can stay over here one night. We have a place to stay. And I gave the money to my mom. The first thing that my mother did, right, was just like, okay, this money is going to help us survive for 1 week. It's not enough, it's 1 week. So I'm going to go downstairs at that same hotel. She saw a notice that says looking for cleaners. So she went down and applied for the job to become a cleaner. She got the job. The next day she started. Okay, then for myself, what I did was that I actually told my fiance that I needed to raise more money. And that was when I took a look at my things around me. I had a MacBook, I had an iPhone, and I had my DSLR. DSLR was a gift from my mom.
Do you mind sharing what specifically what model was it?
Oh my God, I can't even remember. I think it was a Nikon. Do you remember? Was it the first one? D90.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it was like the super basic kit
Yeah.
model. Yeah, and that was all we had. So I was taking a look at all of this, and I just like, okay, if I sell my phone, I asked him, how much can I get? He said, $200, about there. Okay, can lend me your phone, then you sell this one. Then after that, I just like try to survive from there. And he said, okay, so he sold, and I have $400 right in my hand now. And then after I was like, okay, so what can I do with this $400? And that was when we decided to start Blissful Studios. Yeah. So that with that it became seed money. He forked in his own expenses as well. Then he got in the third partner into it, and we bought equipment, whatever was necessary to get our first job started. So we used the camera that I had, and then we worked from there.
So that led on to the pub gig that you got.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a crazy story. Okay,
Yeah,
that's seriously
it
a
is.
crazy story.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's not like, it's not like overnight kind of thing. It took some time still.
Months,
Yeah, I wouldn't say months. Was it months? It's not months. It was
Weeks?
probably weeks. Weeks.
Wow.
And then after that, we were able to move ourselves forward. So that's like the gist of it. Yeah. This is a story, as I would say that it's a filtered version because the pain of it was too much actually to go through at that time. The amount of tears that I actually had to go through, it wasn't easy. But it was a necessary struggle that I had to go through. If I were to tell my older self, would you go through all this again? I'll say yes, hell yes. Because if I don't go through this, I wouldn't be here today to speak with you.
Okay, that's usually quite crazy. That's really quite crazy of how you got to where you are right now, given from where you come from. So I think it would be very inspiring in that sense. I'm just mind blown by the kind of story that you had, right? Okay, so having started Fempreneur Secrets, right? Could you maybe share with listeners what is it about, and like in the sense the success that you had so far and the kind of satisfaction that you have gained from it?
All right, so Fempreneur Secrets is designed as an online community where we teach women how to establish their businesses, how to build it up, how to become more visible online, and of course to add in and sprinkle the elements of marketing that I've gained in Blissful Studios. So those experiences were the ones that I wanted to share. But in particular, what I noticed was that the courses that are made out there that are available for anyone to buy and all that, they are not designed from the perspective of an educator. I am a certified adult educator, so I am able to really break down the knowledge to where you as an adult will be able to understand. And that's important. No point learning, right, if there's no value at the end of the day. So we've really structured it out such that it's bite-sized and that it's easily to be implemented. All our programs are designed for women entrepreneurs or women who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs. It means that if you have a full-time job and you, for whatever reason, you don't want to stay there anymore, you're thinking of starting a business, you have to go through our program because we're going to tell you what you need to do from day one. Even like at least 6 months before you quit your job, you already know what's the path that you need to take before you actually make that decision to leave your job. So we've gone through that momentum and also run through these whole programs. But in particular, when it comes to this whole mission that we have, yes, we are producing courses for women entrepreneurs who can afford. But at the same time, we want to make this accessible to women who cannot afford. So we are actually working together with partners. We're still in talks actually with some organizations to co-fund the seats for low-income households, women who are living in low-income households, or if they are single mothers. We are trying to work together a relationship with the partners to fund their seats so that they will also be able to learn. And while waiting for a job or whatever, they have some sustenance for themselves, for their families, and for them to survive, so that they don't have to go through what I go through. Yeah. So that's like the gist of it, of what Fempreneur Secrets does. Yeah.
Can I ask, because I know from your perspective, you have like interacted with so many people that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs at the same time. So pattern recognition that is something I'm fascinated with. So can I just ask from your perspective in terms of pattern recognition, right? What kind of common challenges or story do people tell themselves on to why they perhaps can't make it, and the kind of, in a very general sense, the methodology of how you as a coach overcome these limiting beliefs that they have?
The very common challenges or setbacks, and like what you call and what you mentioned as self-limiting beliefs, right, is that they have this fear that there is someone else out there who's doing what they are doing. So I'm like, yeah, obviously, right? There's always got to be someone who's out there who's doing what you're doing. But what makes you different from someone else out there is the experiences that you go through, because no two person will have the same journey, and that's the reality of life. We are put on this earth for a reason, and the reason will only be discovered to us at a later stage in our lives. But that's the reason why we go through what we need to go through. If we don't go through that journey, like if I didn't go through that homelessness, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be able to share this story with you. So that fear that someone else is already starting something, yeah, obviously there will be. Then no one is unique, like no matter what industry that you're in, okay, maybe perhaps on the exception Elon Musk, I think, like you really just can't find a way for you to say that this idea hasn't been thought of before. You are always inspired by other people, and with the advent of internet, we are inspired by more people now than we were before. So that is a very I would say illogical fear to have. It's irrational fear to have, for you to be afraid of what you think that your competitors might do. Like, just do lah, then you will know, right? Yeah. So that's like one of the common fears that the women that I've spoken to have. Yeah.
So in terms of helping them overcome it, are you like more of the logical kind? I just tell them like what you've told me, or like, because sometimes I believe like the logical mind can only, like, some logical explanations can only get you so far.
Correct.
So in terms of, like, because you're a woman yourself, right, how you relate to women entrepreneurs, I think there's definitely an age that probably even like a guy could do, right? So in terms of how you could how do you help them overcome it, aside from just telling, or do you just tell them straight in the face that it's something that it's a fact, that it's a very logical argument. Like, how do you? Is there a difference when it comes to like approaching guys? I feel like there's a difference. I'm not sure. I'm very young, so I don't really know. So what's the kind of difference do you see?
The key differences between the way men would think and also the way that women think, if I were to, like really draw that demarcation, is that, like what you mentioned, men are very logical, like they're very factual based, and at the same time, like the action must lead to a result. It's a straight line, but for a woman, it's not a straight line. You've seen the memes around, right? Where,
yeah, we all see the memes.
Yeah, so memes. Like a man goes to a shopping mall, it's just straight. You want to buy an item. For a woman, it's like go to another shop, then go to a parlor, then after that, go one round and then reach to the end objective. For women, the way that I actually convey my message and I actually teach them is that I would actually approach from stories. For myself, personal experiences that I've gone through. So in other words, it's like you need to be able to relate to women. Men may be able to relate to women, but not in the exact way that women can relate to other women. The challenges that we go through, the feelings that we feel, is uniquely ours, I would say. So when I teach the women to overcome these challenges, right, I actually teach them a structure first. I tell them like, okay, so this is what you need to do. Okay, so now I tell you how I did it from my own perspective and also how I experienced it. So unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever it takes, we need to go through the experiences in order for us to educate, in order for us to teach, especially the women, because they don't believe that this can be done. So you need to prove that belief by telling them that I've done it. And I really enjoy speaking to women actually, because woman to woman, right, we lower our walls. It's easy to communicate. But when you have a man in the room, right, suddenly they're just like, like really cramped up, don't want to talk, don't want to share, it's like that. It's just how it works, for our physique and the way that we think. It's not, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not, in that profession, but I feel that in general, women running businesses, when we run our businesses, we are a little bit more mission oriented. We start first with the mission. And for males, normally what they do is that they will start with the money first. Like, how much money can I make? Is this profitable or not? Yeah. So for women, we always start with a mission first. And that mission is the one that drives our business forward. But sometimes it's also the one that hinders us from growing. Because we're stuck with that mission. We are not willing to make adjustments that can help us to grow.
To face the realities of business, like how cash flow is king in business.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes it becomes so much of a passion project, right? Because they are so passionate about it that it's hard to let go when one mistake has happened and then you're like, okay, I'm very passionate about it, I want to go forward, but then you're bleeding. That happens a lot in women-led businesses actually. Yeah.
Just now you briefly mentioned how you use stories from your own personal experience and how they are able to relate it and therefore make that overcome that beliefs, right? Can you just share more about that crowdfunding story that you have? Like, what was that situation like? Did she want to crowdfund something and that's why you had to take matters in your own hands, like show and prove to her that was possible? What was that story?
So for the crowdfunding campaign, what I did was that I already started a business in 2017 unofficially, and then officially registered in 2019. So during these 2 years, I already had an inclination or like a feeling of what the woman need. Some of the questions that they come to me is that of course you can start a business because you already have a business before this. That's like the common thing that they say to me. So I'm like, but when I first started, I didn't have anything as well. What? So what is this mindset that is going through their minds, making them realize or believe that they cannot do it because they don't have what I have? So I had to like sit down and think, okay, what is one thing that I can do such that I can start this business from $0 and prove to them that it can be done. It's just a matter of what you want to do and how you want to do it. So I thought long and hard. At that time, I didn't have partners yet. So I was like thinking, okay, I think I'll just do a crowdfunding and then we'll see how. So I went online, I did the research on, okay, so what can I do with my existing resources? I've got a mobile phone. Of course, I got a team, right? So that one is like play cheat a bit lah. Okay, but it's what resources you existingly have, right? So I've got friends. So I called in my friends for a favor. I was like, okay, girls, you guys can come down and become my models, and then after that we can just have fun. Like I take photos of you. You can take the photos yourself. You can keep. So that was like the arrangement that we brokered with the models, which are my friends. Yeah, and then like the location itself, we actually communicated and brokered the deal. And of course, I used the equipment that I already have. So we did a video and we went online, we did the crowdfunding, and I just reached out to my personal contacts. I just reached out to everyone. I'm doing this crowdfunding. You watch the video. If the message is what you believe in as well, support me, whatever amount.
What platform do you put it on?
It's actually a US-based platform for women. It's called I Fund Women.
Got it. So basically you like created all the collaterals, had all the write-ups of what this movement that you wanted to be about, put it in a very as professional way as possible, in a very, I'm sure in like a very visual way as well, because I've seen your work, like very visual stuff. And from there, then you were able to, how long was this campaign for?
It was about 3 months. And what actually made me quite surprised was that my highest supporters, right, were men.
Oh, like did this platform give like a demo, like country breakdown, like where was it from your social circle in terms of blasting?
Mostly from my social circles. I think only about 5 to 7% are from their platform. Yeah, the rest is from my own social circle. So I actually reached out to every single one of my social circle. I got rid of the doubt that, okay, maybe this person not good for it. I just got rid of it. I told everyone about it. And I was surprised that the people who backed me, the highest bidders, the highest backers actually were men. So when I asked them, why do you support me? Because this is a very, like woman-driven kind of mission, right? Then he was like, I believe in the woman causes because I believe that what you believe in, that women need to have access to business and we need to see more women leading businesses. I was like, okay, that's cool. Then the other guy also said something similar as well, and went on and on. I realized it's a recurring theme that they want to see, a lot of people want to see growth in women to become leaders. We live, you and I, we live in Singapore, we live in a city. But it's not the norm actually in the whole of ASEAN region to see business led by women. It's often, they could be a partner, but not so as the sole owner. And there are so many reasons behind why. Different countries would have their own different cultures and things like that. So that's like really, really interesting on what can be done. And it's nice to see that it's possible. And when I was able to raise that was proof that it's possible for you to start with whatever you have. If you have an oven, if you have a mixer, then you already have 2 extra things that you can start off and you can bake. You can find a recipe, try and test, and then bake. If you have a camera, you can be like me and you can start shooting, portraits. If you have a computer, you can do just about anything nowadays. So what's stopping you is just yourself. you need to move forward in order for you to be able to make your business a success. And I've proven that it's possible for you to do that.
Can I ask, in terms of the community that you have, right, would you mind sharing the kind of like different niche that or kind of businesses that they have created? Because I'm just interested to like see, because this kind of empowering thing, like, because it's really unique to each individual, to what you're passionate about, and everyone is like passionate about different kind of things that light them on fire, right? Just from your community, right, what are the kind of different interesting, because like you're coaching them at the same time, but yet it is a skill and passion that they have which might be new to you in that sense. So I'm just curious to know, like, what are the kind of different kind of varieties of people that are in your community?
A lot. The industries wise, I shouldn't specify, but one common thread I noticed amongst them is that all of their businesses have a social mission. So they actually have a cause behind why they created their business, and that why is the drivers of their business. So in our community, it's not people who want to make money, it's people who want to change the world. Yeah, so that's the difference, I would say.
I feel, okay, I mean, maybe I'm a little too brainwashed by the kind of books I read, but I think like a mission is really why, I think it's, at least to me, I think it's the only like long-term sustainable thing that really drives you, because money can only get you so far. If you want to get it, then I think that should be the main reason. A mission should be why. And yeah, I think that's it. From your perspective of growing this community, is it more like I think there are different ways to grow a community. Like you can like put paid marketing. Like there's so much ways to grow it, right? How are you growing it? Yeah, how are you growing it?
We are still at the startup stage, I would say. So the way that we are growing it is actually more personal. So even on Instagram, we did both ways. We actually tried running advertisements, and then we did the organic way. What we realized is that the organic way is more personal, and we are able to actually get long-term followers as compared to if we were to run advertisements and we get the followers in. Yeah, the numbers would be, of course, be higher, but the quality of the followers is not there as compared to when we were to do it organically. So right now we are doing organic engagement. We're getting communication with the followers themselves. They tell us what are the challenges that they go through, and then at the same time they also share with us how they actually envision their business to be like. That's more personable to me, and I can also clearly identify how I can help them. At the same time, we do workshops. So we do run workshops with partners, like you were mentioning the US State Department, so that was actually a partnership. Yeah, and then most recently we actually did a partnership with We Do International. So they are a global charitable organization empowering young women to become leaders in their workplace. So we collaborated with them. We produced one workshop as well. So this is like our way of reaching out new market segments, and at the same time to let people know that we exist. I would say that in the first 2 years of your business, you're naturally at the brand awareness stage. You're just going out there to let people know that you exist. That's where we are right now. But at the same time, because of the experiences that I have, my partner have, we sort of know what's the next stage already. We're borderline going to the next stage already. Yeah.
I was checking out some of the marketing collaterals that you have on your website, and I realized that the kind of courses and workshops you guys have, right, are mostly long term, and it's something that I realized, like, there's always a monthly coaching call. There's, I think, a commitment of up to 6 to 1 year at least, right? Yeah. So I'm just curious from a perspective, because I know that, again, there are different schools of thought. Some people think like maybe it's just a one-off workshop, right? Yeah. And like a 1 month thing, then it's done. And to me, I think it's slightly unconventional why you have chosen a slightly longer duration. But at the same time, it offers certain benefits whereby you'll be able to be more accountable to them, help them along the way, right? Is there a reason why you chose, like, let's say, slightly longer form duration workshops over 1 year instead of like just having one-off workshops, or probably or even like online courses and videos?
Okay, because I'm a sucker for courses.
Oh, you're a sucker? What do you mean?
I really spend a lot of time learning online. I pay for courses, and I also noticed that a lot of the courses that I sign up for, they always have shorter term goals, which is possible for some people, but not possible for most people actually to achieve. 60 days, 90 days is very challenging for someone to commit actually. So having a full year for support, it's more realistic. It is the natural way of how people build businesses. So imagine if you are currently working full-time. You already have that business idea. You want to get started. or even you're thinking like, okay, I don't have an idea yet, but I know I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to be my own boss. So you're already starting the process of starting a business. Of course, you have this idea. It's not as though tomorrow you're going to quit your job and then start it. That's not how it works. There's some time that you need to take first before you can get to the next stage. And while you're working full-time, you have your job responsibilities. And then when you come back home, you have family to take care of. So how are you then going to be able to commit to learning plus taking action? It's almost impossible for you to do it in 60 days, 30 days, 90 days in that aspect. So that's the reason why we actually stretch it until 9 months to 1 year. This is more realistic. Because progression is not an overnight success. You need to actually take one step at a time in order for you to get there. Of course, the exception for you is that if you can really commit, means you shut off, take leave for like 30 days or take leave for 90 days and complete whatever you need to do, then that's great. That's brilliant. It shows commitment. But at the same time, it's only probably about 20% of the population who's able to do that. The bulk of us is not able to do that. Yeah. So that's the reason why it's very long.
Can I ask, where do you get a realization? Was it from your own personal experiences of taking courses and felt like it was difficult to commit for that period? Or was it really talking from like other aspiring women entrepreneurs as well onto the kind of feedback that they gave? Like, how did you arrive at this? Because I think that is quite interesting.
First of all, it's of course my own experience. 60 days, 90 days doesn't work for me. It usually takes me about 6 to 9 months for me to see whatever that I've done into results. Then also on research. So I actually did some research to find out that a lot of people pay for courses. Actually quite high percentage. The recent percentage I saw was actually about 89% of people who pay for courses don't complete their course. Okay, and that's just the learning part, not even the implementation part. So that goes to show that people are paying for courses, consuming it, but whether they apply or not is another story. We want our community of women to apply, and that's the reason why we provide that support. No point I teach you, but you're not going to apply, right? Yeah. So that's exactly the reason why we do it that way.
Yeah, for me, even I feel like when I take online courses as well, I fall into the trap of just like learning, but not really implementing. So that's something that I don't like about myself. But I really resonate with the point that it's really about taking action on the things that you have learned as well. Yeah. So that's very, very interesting. Got it. Okay, so moving on to the last section of the podcast, right? I'm just some very, very general questions. Sure. Thanks so much for really sharing. I find the stories that you have are like really, really crazy. And yeah, I think there's a lot. Is there any interesting stories that you like to tell? Just a very general question. I don't know.
Is there any husband got any stories that I should share? No.
Could you tell me the story of how you met your husband?
Oh my God.
I like this like full narrative. Like, let's say we're in a full podcast, you really get the full picture. Like initially when I asked you about how you started with Blissful Studios, right, I didn't know that low point, which is like crazy. That's a crazy story. So I think the story of how you met your husband is a very important one, and perhaps you could share with listeners. And yeah.
We met at a camp, my husband and I. We met at a school camp. So this particular camp is like it brings together ASEAN youths in one location, which is Singapore, and that was when I actually met my husband for the very first time. He was my facilitator and I was the participant, and like we didn't talk. I didn't even know he exists, but I've seen him, but I didn't know he's Malay. Okay, so I just was like, okay, that's a dude that hangs around, and so I was like, okay, that's him. It was only during a barbecue. I think after that event, about a year actually after that event, that I noticed that actually there's like another dude I've never met before. And when he first said that I was at that camp, I was like, really? I didn't even realize.
So this camp, is it like a every year thing or like a 1 year thing, or is it a regular commitment?
It's actually a 1 year. It's every year it happens, but for participants you can only attend once, but you can come back to facilitate anytime. Of course, subjected to approval, whether you will get in or not. So from this camp, we just talked, normal Facebook friends, Twitter friends and all that. I think only about 2 years after that, then we communicated more on Twitter. So
Twitter, that's a very unconventional platform in Singapore, I think.
Yeah, so when I was a bit younger, Twitter was actually quite popular. So we communicated on Twitter. And one day he was just like, what are you doing now? And I was like, well, I'm studying. Then he asked, okay, can I join you? So then we met. So that was the first time we met. And then we went on dates. Yeah.
Cool, got it. Sorry, one last question. I'm going over the place, right? What was the best course have you ever taken?
Course. My best course that I've ever taken. The best course that I've ever taken is this program called The Profitable Creator by Melissa Griffin. So she was actually one of my first courses that I invested in. And I actually have a saying that I say in their community, which is once you go Melissa's programs, you will never go back, because she gives so much value. And she's similar to me in the regard that Melissa is also a teacher. She was a teacher first, and then she became a coach. So I understood the teaching elements, methodology, everything inside that I understood. So when it comes to what I'm doing, I'm teaching from an andragogy perspective, which is adult education. So I can understand and read it. So once you go Melissa Griffin, you will never go back.
Got it. Like you're taking inspiration from how she has created her own programs as well. Got it. Okay, thanks so much, Huda, for joining me on this podcast. Right, last few fire questions. Right, what is the best advice have you ever received in your whole journey of being an entrepreneur?
Oh, very, very good question. I ask my guests this question all the time, so now I'm being asked the question. The best advice that I've received before is to always believe in yourself. That's like the one thing that we women entrepreneurs especially fail to believe, that we need to actually believe in ourselves. And once we believe in ourselves, we get more comfortable, then others will believe in us.
What's the worst advice have you ever received?
Wow, you tricked me there. Okay, the worst advice I've ever received is just Google it. I hate that advice.
Oh, really? Okay, why?
Because if I need to Google it, why am I going to you to ask that question? I'm coming to you because there's something that you have that I'm not sure of, right? If you ask me to Google, I didn't need to come to you in the first place. I find that phrase is very rude.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you can just Google it. Yeah, I know, that's why I'm coming to you in the first place. If I can Google it, I wouldn't come to you. Yeah.
Okay, I never thought that.
Yeah.
1 year from now, right, what are the tangible things that will need to happen to Blissful Studios and Fempreneur Secrets to make it the best year for these two entities?
For Blissful Studios, 1 year from now, we're going to have a team of 5. So that's like most important for us. Right now, our team is very, very small, and we also depend a lot on freelancers. But now we want to commit to having a team full-time with us. For Fempreneur Secrets, we are going to go all out and get our first 100,000 women in the community. So, gambate.
Like through an email list, like really finding. Is it a sensitive question to ask how big is the community right now?
We're still quite small, very, very small right now. But the vision that we have is that 100,000 inclusive of the beneficiaries. So we want to impact 100,000 women's lives.
Got it. Wow. Okay. Thanks so much for joining this podcast. Right. For those listeners that want to follow your work, right, where can they find you?
You can look up fempreneursecrets.com, or you can follow me on Instagram, Fempreneur Secrets as well. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks so much for joining this podcast. I really learned a lot in terms of like, I think the most powerful thing that I've learned in this is stories, the power of stories to be able to ask, to let people empathize with you on the journey. And I think the story that you have is really, really crazy as well. And I'm like, wow, right? So yeah, that's it for this episode. And for those listeners that want to follow up, I'm sure I'll just leave a lot of video descriptions, video links down below of a lot of articles with Marketing Asia as well. I saw a lot of videos, a lot of websites as well. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me on this podcast, Huda.
Thank you, JJ, for having me. I hope every single one of you who are watching are able to learn and also implement whatever that you can into your own lives and business.
Okay, thank you.